Yeah, it was good. Great service.
We are a murmuration.
I was just at Discovery High School.
Isn't that an impressive facility? They spent $1 gazillion on that.
And I didn't see, I went in the auditorium. It was enough. When they spent all the money for the battle, they were saying it's not the best thing.
No, I haven't been in that school. I'd like to see that.
It looks beautiful. A little bit dark, sounding was kind of but I briefly went back to the
No, Discovery's video suite is kind of our top line flagship.
Yeah, look.
I've helped them set it up now.
Oh, you have, yeah.
They keep burning through video teachers over there. They can't keep a video teacher. I don't know why. So, I don't want to conjecture. I'll just default to the generic reason we hire new teachers. We have 100 students a day. We ask them to teach, to coach, to support at the same time. And we burn them out in a year or two. We just can't do that.
Every teacher has to.
It tends to be something that we do to new teachers, experienced teachers. You know, 7 years, 6 years old. No, I don't want to coach you all the time. I don't know I can. New teachers are just prepared to run the same programs. Well, we have teachers that say it's worse than almost anyone because they're expected to do these concerts. And do our organization for every concert.
They're finishing to the roof.
Yes. UUCAtl,
But
that was
also,
business.
you've got the chamber, which are somewhat diverse, you've got those levels of opinion. In terms of the
First of all, the student body at Champlain High is quite diverse. It's really well balanced, and the program is pretty white. It's character to the school body as a whole. When you see a high school football game, it's quite pronounced. Players on the field are 90% black, and the marching band is 90% white. Parents who are there to cheer on the groups are very different groups from each other. All of that is just a real big after football. No. We became, Gwinnett County Public School System became a majority minority 10 years ago. So in the school population is majority minority, which makes no sense as a phrase. I mean, back then it's kind of a ridiculous phrase. And that's what came down. The county as a whole was 80% white 10 years ago. The population of the schools was 51% minority.
What does that mean?
That means that people of color are moving into massive apartment complexes that become to people of color now. And they're sending their kids to public schools. The white kids are still, the white parents are still sending their kids to public schools. And those white taxpayers in that last 10-year period are still voting for SPLOST every year. They're still funding the school systems, which has been really hard.
But they didn't vote for it.
No, they did not. And that's a different story. But now, Gwinnett County is making their population is around 4%. Conventional wisdom of why they rejected Berta was it wasn't very many other elections, special elections. So
64,000 people.
early voting, white retirees got to go in and vote. Voices heard, no one else did.
I heard some politicians say.
Good, how are you doing?
Business.
Yeah, so in 2 years they want to put it to another referendum. Right? static charge or something. What was? Oh, sorry. What was?
Hey, kiddo. I'm good.
Where is Mary? How are you?
Not too bad.
Well, you meaning to ignore it earlier.
That's okay. I know.
Good. Here's the live stream. That's what.
I found your
person
name.
watching on YouTube right now.
Not calling you. And I found Edgar's name.
What color is me?
I think you're green. You are nowhere near here.
You want to make sure.
I'll give you a hint.
Wait, dark or light?
Is very interested in going to doing this. She found out. She's like, "Why do you think we got to talk about that?" Nobody had told her. No. Well, I've told her, so she knows that. It was just an experiment. It's like there's what it looks like. She wants to have a conversation. She's on the communications committee.
Yes, so I heard.
Apparently, I'm gonna be on with that.
Yeah, there's a little place carved with her name on it at the table. Just kidding.
Isn't that bad?
It's not bad at all. There's a chat feature, so I just
Who are you using? Are you just
did that. YouTube. It's great. It's like crazy good. We can use Facebook too. Maybe Nicole might say use Facebook. There's more features. Tie it in our Facebook page. Look, it's Dangerfield.
Do you have any crashes in the first service?
No, no. There's no one spoken this morning. Even had a comment. Thank you.
Not one of our insiders.
Whoever that person invited.
Did they put it in the chat?
It was someone that Kevin knew who was out of town.
Oh, that group, okay.
Yeah,
Is David Hannah sometimes?
yeah, yeah. He's not at all.
Hi, guys. Hey, John.
I'm not gonna be there Tuesday, so. Michigan.
First cousins are. And so after, I didn't have any art. Like 2 weeks ago, having like 3 crashes, and then me having it after a service. It was just sitting there, and I was talking, and next time I turned and looked at it, it was spinning. I did the stream support ticket sort of thing.
Drive down to Cape Canaveral on
And
Friday.
you know, it's hard to do when you're not actually in the machine.
Yeah.
But
Now we have this current version. We're all over sport.
so he wanted me to, after the service, I'll go in there, and he wanted me to send some system log. But since it's not just that one app that's free, it locks up the whole system.
Right, right. Well, those, I don't know, those ones that are at the bottom.
But he still asks for
Because
system log.
they were on tension. No, really, really, really long time.
First place he said to find it, file, the folder was empty. So I said, go to a different folder.
Or is it now that you're practicing there? Is it
It was only switched off for
just yours?
the server was still just.
We forgot to change it.
But it was changed for the rating, the standard for the offering. And that was a straight camera, right?
Yeah.
Which I think is still slightly delayed straight, but it's not as quite as delayed as So yeah, and then it was ironic because I thought, okay, you guys were going to switch it say where you can see the ball. So
I thought we had switched it.
I felt Gene did it, right?
But they liked it. They've liked it when I've talked to them about it. Except for a few it's pretty cool. They all say, thank you so much. Nothing. For a pillar.
Hey, listen, if they're not complaining, they're not paying. That's the way I feel about it. I consider it a complaint.
What time did you get out of there last night?
Oh, I like what you're doing this. You go straight out. And you pick up the microphone, bring stuff with safe. There's a lot of people in and out of that building. 4 or 5 studios. Did you go upstairs when you came?
No.
I'm doing stuff with her sometimes on Saturday.
Who brought you that? They're just more strings. Do you know hammer dulcimer tuning?
Yeah, 151. I think those strings are super old.
People don't change strings very often, do they? Even on guitar.
How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. I'm an old guy.
I had one of these in prison.
I remember like seeing you play. It sounded awesome.
I'm doing well, man. That's he wrote that.
Mine too.
Okay.
So her father gave it to her 43 years ago. And she was like sitting in my closet, and then for 40 years she wanted this thing. Yeah, cool. It's good to see. The pegs need to be replaced, the strings need to be replaced, but it's cool and it's also gorgeous.
Yeah, it's a good place.
soccer.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the opera.
She had an older sister.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I did.
Not as good.
Yeah, she played, but she's kind of like Serena Venus thing. The younger one is better. But did you see her yesterday? She lost.
The older one.
No, Naomi lost.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she lost to this Chinese, you know, I don't like brown pronounce. Name is spelled H-S-I-E. You know, she plays two-handed both sides,
Right.
which is confusing, you know. And she just broke it out. In fact, she got bad. I thought the girl was going to have a break. She threw a racket on the court when it became 5-4.
Right.
And went to the back wall and stayed for about 2 or 3 minutes. And the commentator said, hey, she got to do something. You know, go ahead and get it over.
She got a violation.
I thought they didn't do that to her. But it was embarrassing.
She's fragile.
Yeah, she's very fragile. And that was work. No, and see, that's what Serena was about, she was. And see what Venus was. Venus was fragile. You know, couldn't handle the mental pressure. And that makes it different. It is.
But they talk about the physical skill.
Yeah.
They talk about the physical skill.
Exactly. Man, you got to be able to hang it up with kind of like life itself. So let's say that doesn't bode well for her.
No, it doesn't.
I mean, not just in tennis, but I mean in life itself.
I saw an interview with Nick Kyrgios.
Okay, he's the same way.
Well,
He's got a dirty judo.
he is nutty, but here's what's interesting. I'd like to hear him talk about it.
Okay.
The commentators were asking traditional questions about, you know, his attitude and
Right.
where he's from. But he's very self-aware of his
Okay, good. Doctor.
Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Atlanta. When the crowd is more chatty, Travis rings with more forte. Really digs in. I love it. So glad you are all here this morning. We have some friends from the choir joining us. Our first hymn this morning is actually 2 hymns. We're going to sing "Come and Go With Me to That Land," and we're going to sing "Oh We Give Thanks." So the first hymn is "Oh We Give Thanks." We're going to sing it all together. Put the lyrics up. We have this "Oh We Give Thanks for this blessed day." We'll sing the whole thing together, and then we're going to sing it as a canon. So this half will have "Oh We Give Thanks, Oh We Give Thanks." Got it, perfect, just like that. And then we're going to sing "Come and Go With Me to That Land," which is another hymn. We're going to sing "There'll Be Freedom in That Land," and then we're going to do both hymns at the same time. It works, I promise. So this half is going to sing "Oh We Give Thanks," and this half is going to sing "Come and Go With Me to That Land." On the screen even, the left side of the screen is "Oh We Give Thanks," and the right side is "Come and Go With Me." So good luck. Please rise in body or in spirit. excellent job. We are so glad you are here, where we have some of the weirdest music in Atlanta. Good, fantastic.
Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Atlanta, a beloved community that changes lives. I'm Kay Golan, and I'm so glad you're here this morning. Wherever you are from and whomever you love, you are welcome. If this is your first time, or if you've not yet had a chance, please stop by our Welcome Center near the Quiet Room after the service and allow us to get to know you a little better. You can sign up to receive information about services and programs being presented over the next several weeks. After this service, we offer religious education classes for adults, and once again, please take a look in the order of service for more information. I especially want to highlight the Inquirers class, which is great for people wanting to learn more about this faith community. It meets in room 1, right off the social hall. Today's gorgeous flower arrangement was donated by Eva Mitchell, and we are so grateful for Eva's generosity that has brought springtime beauty into the treehouse. Now is the time to register for the all-congregation retreat at the UU Mountain on April 26th through the 28th. Together, we will gather for workshops on writing your spiritual autobiography, guided wildflower hikes, a special eco-spirituality workshop, a talent show, and so much more. For registration information and a full list of activities, please visit the UUCA website. Today at 3 p.m., a group of UUCAers are going to a Gladiators hockey game together. There are 6 tickets available for last-minute hockey enthusiasts. Please see Jack Pierce, who will have a table in the social hall with the very near to the front and affordable tickets. Join the fun. And now please take a moment to put your cell phones in their most reverent positions. Thank you. Once again, we're so glad you're here this morning.
As we imagine peace between neighbors, where can we look for a model of being with each other? If we can learn to trust nature, the whole queer, wondrous creation, what can that teach us about waging peace between neighbors? Imagine a new world, a new way of being together, a new strategy for organizing that is emerging before us even now. What does the natural world teach us about deep trust, the care and attention to our neighbors on either side of us, about synchronicity, cohesion? Specifically, what do we have to learn from a murmuration of starlings? Waging peace during the crisis of our time requires an emergent strategy described by the writer Adrienne Marie Brown, who also recently gave a presentation called Intersecting Worlds, the one we've got, the one we're building, and the ones we imagine. Won't you imagine with me? Last month, our social justice coordinator, Francella Perryman, ran a Black History Knowledge Contest in our religious education program. And I would like to invite our Black History Contest winners, Dean Pruitt and Zachary Lanterman, forward to light our chalice this morning. So come on, Dean and Zachary, I saw you out there. Except we don't have a flame, actually. Running into this. All right. So Dean's going to help light it, and then you'll put it out. Okay, Zach? Okay, hold on. Okay, now give it to Zach. Wait, stay here. You can lead us.
Together. May the light of this flame illuminate our tradition of seeking, invite all bloom for acceptance, and ignite passion for justice and peace.
I also just want to highlight our chalice tablecloth that was handmade by Sally Yerger, member of UUCA, in honor of spring. So we are delighted to have so much spring beauty reflected in our chancel area today. Won't you please turn to your neighbor and welcome them, greet them with a handshake or a hug, welcome them to this space.
All right, my brother.
How are you guys? I'm Michael. Nice to see you. Hi there. Nice to meet you.
Come on, choir, let's do it.
It takes a whole village to raise our children. It takes a whole village to raise one child. We all, everyone, must share the burden. We all, everyone, must share the joy.
It takes a whole village to raise our children. It takes a whole village to raise one child. We all, everyone, must share the burden. We all, everyone, will share the joy.
Our music for meditation is a song by Ben Harper and the Blind Boys of Alabama called There Will Be a Light. We're going to learn the chorus together. It goes like this. There will be a light. There will be a light. Try it with me. There will be a light. There will be a light. That will come back often. It's always your part. Now time for our music for meditation. Please settle in a little more comfortably. Close your eyes if you wish. And join us in singing There Will Be a Light. 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 Let the warmth of our love dry away all of your tears. Fear not, for we are with you.
and we'll fear not with you here. There will be light. There will be a light. There will be a light. There will be a light.
Let us put hands upon hearts. Feel the warm connection. Let love in this moment flow. Say to yourself silently, I will love myself. I will love others, and that love will heal the world. And now we hear the joys and sorrows of our beloved community. We send love and healing thoughts to Les Magukin, who is in rehab following discharge from Piedmont Hospital this past Friday. He is not taking visitors' phone calls or emails at this time. We send love and healing thoughts to Jane Mengel, who had foot surgery and is this past week and is recovering. We send our love to people in Mozambique and Malawi and Southern Africa, where communities struggle to recover from massive flooding. And we send our care closer to home, to people in Nebraska and Iowa who are displaced by flooding in the center of our own country. We pray and we work for generous and resilient policies and wealth division that will help all people prepare for catastrophic climate change. At this time, I invite you to say out loud in your own voice the names of people you are holding in your heart this morning. As humans have gathered for millennia, so we gather on this day to gently surrender to something beyond ourselves, to humbly acknowledge our mistakes, to ask forgiveness, to seek hope and renewal, to honor the earth that supports and sustains life, to remember that all beings are mysteriously connected, and to feel that connection. Now we still our bodies and we still our minds. We take in a big breath. We exhale. We relax into this space that our intentions make sacred. We enter into the wise silence.
there will be a light, there will be a light. There will be a light, there will be a light. Let the warmth of our love magnify all of your bliss. Sing out, for we are with you. And together, we're going to give our thanks for this. There will be a light. 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 There will be a light.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Letta Wu. I decided pretty young that church and religion were not for me. So I stumbled along and tried on my own to confront big questions about life and meaning. Fast forward to me meeting the love of my life, who told me about Unitarian Universalism and their brief church attendance as a kid. Maybe I wasn't ready until that moment, but we decided to give it a try here in the fall of 2017, and I'm so glad we did. Here, I'm starting to explore a spiritual home and loving community, and leaving my comfort zone to find greater purpose. For me, that looked like volunteering as one of 3 adult mentors for YRUU, Young Religious Unitarian Universalists, which are the 9th to 12th graders. The experience has been both humbling and rewarding. I like to plan, and it's a valuable skill, but I learned that some of the most precious moments are unscripted and unexpected, even a little messy. I'm surprised by how the time I spend with the youth affects me, watching and trying to help them interact with each other, the ways they challenge and support each other in both silly and very serious conversations, seeing how they are all on their own paths to confront their own big questions, but they don't have to do it alone. The experience has changed me and my ideas about what is possible in this world and what is possible for me, and all the ways we show up for ourselves and others. It can be so much bigger than I imagined. I'm so grateful for the children, youth, teachers, volunteers, and everyone involved with the religious education program. If you are feeling a nudge towards something bigger, I encourage you to volunteer. I'm so glad that I did. Please see myself and others in the social hall after the service, where we are having our teacher recruitment fair. We'd love to talk with you about all of our religious education classes and programs. There are so many ways to be of service to our children, our families, and to our religious future.
The collection today that is not designated for your pledge will be given to Every Woman Works. Every Woman Works is a safe, therapeutic, and supportive environment where women who are homeless, recovering from alcohol and drug dependency, in transition from the penal systems, recovering from domestic violence, or living in poverty have an opportunity to develop solid, transferable work skills to strengthen their confidence and obtain financial independence. Since the beginning of the program in 2004, and with the community support, Every Woman Works has served over 1,000 women and 3,600 children. In addition to Give Away the Plate, during the month of March, we honor Women's History Month by supporting these women in our community making history. They are taking back their lives, making history by getting back up again and fighting for not only themselves, but for their families. In addition to the Give Away the Plate today, please join us in donating one of the following items to make this fight a little easier. You may place items in the Black Social Justice bin, which is right over there. And for more information, you can contact our Social Justice Coordinator, Francella Pierman. The items you can donate are toothpaste, toothbrushes, shampoo, soap and body wash, deodorant, and hair ties. The offering will now be given and gratefully received.
It is a blessing that we can be both a refuge and a beacon, a refuge to kids, to youth in our community who just want a safe place to try on ideas, to find some mentorship and guidance as they grow, and a beacon for women in our Atlanta community and larger community who seek agency in their own lives. It is a blessing to be both a refuge and to be a beacon in our world. May the light of this beacon and this gift shine far and wide and do the most good for the most women in our Atlanta community and beyond. Blessings on this offering.
Now, please join me for the dedication of the offering. To the work of this congregation, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action we call community, we dedicate our lives And these are offerings.
You know you're a Unitarian Universalist minister when you see a flock of starlings and think, that'll preach. I've only visited Iowa once in my life, and it was there I had an ominous encounter with a murmuration of starlings. Always vigilant to a nature wow encounter, I found myself so close to this murmuration in the dark sky that I ducked and ran for cover, feeling more like Tippi Hedren in the Hitchcock horror than I felt like a brave and wondrous observer of nature. Their transformative power cannot be understated. The way they duck and dive, leaderless, changing the sky, moving with purpose, as you saw. The purpose is collective, and the movement is adaptive. We humans, especially Americans, tend not to move in this way. Either we form lines following a leader, or else we move alone in isolated chaos, each towards our lonely, vanishing points. How can we expect peace with our neighbor if we move through our lives in this way? Competing for land, for traffic patterns, for our own needs in a scarcity-based economy that denies and destroys the abundance in the world. What can we learn from the starlings? According to writer Adrienne Marie Brown, author of Emergent Strategy, the synchronized patterns of a starling flock, known as a murmuration, are guided by simple rules. Starling murmurations can react to their environment as a group without a central leader orchestrating their choices. In any instant, any part of the flock can transform the movements of the entire flock. What does the murmuration of starlings have to teach us about adaptability and collectivism? How can this make us more peaceful neighbors? Our days in these times of crisis are marked by polarization. Perhaps, like me, you find yourself bitterly laughing at the unfolding moral chasm of an absurdly cynical administration. We allow our anger to fuel our self-righteousness all day, and why not? I agree with comedian Trevor Noah from The Daily Show, who believes Trump is not the cause of white supremacist violence rapidly spreading throughout our world, even to the far reaches of New Zealand, as we found earlier this month. However, Trump is a product of white supremacy and ascribes to the same or similar belief system as the perpetrators of violent hate crimes across the globe. It is an international tragedy, and it takes effort not to wallow in disgust every day. And like me, I'm sure some of your neighbors voted for the man. And some of your neighbors, your family members, and maybe your friends will vote for him again. If we are standing on two opposite sides of the same argument for dignity, safety, and justice for all people, and the survival of our earth, then how can peace be possible? I have experienced the murmuration of starlings in a human systemic response to injustice. So I think I understand what Brown is talking about when she speaks of biomimicry in justice movements, strategic response that follows effective patterns in nature, such as the starlings, or mycelium fungus growth, or fern structures. I remember when Michael Brown was killed in Ferguson, Missouri, and then a few months later, Eric Garner died on a prominent street in Staten Island in a chokehold administered by members of the NYPD. In December that year, the grand jury failed to indict the officers complicit in his death. This was 2014, and I was a second-year student at Union Theological Seminary on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, across from Columbia. I remember the mass die-ins we quickly organized outside of the seminary right there on Broadway, lying in the pavement in silence, holding hands as the car horns blared and the journalists aimed their cameras at our faces. Suddenly, protests sprang up all across the city, and union students were getting jailed overnight, terrified and determined to take a stand for an end to the brutal police murders of unarmed people of color in our streets. Tensions were high, and each day at our noon chapel, we sang spirituals through tears of outrage. In those days, the classroom became more of a battleground of ideas, as you might imagine. A group of students took over a prominent classroom right in the center of campus, and suddenly someone brought in a lamp, a cot, and a rotary telephone, of all things. We began to offer chaplaincy and 24-hour support to other students who were going off to protest. And you see, in this week in early December of 2014, you have to understand there were sit-ins, there were marches, there were die-ins each day and each night, sometimes all night. Someone brought in more cots for people to sleep who were on call for protesters coming back to campus, needing pastoral care after clashes with police or counter-protesters. Slowly, the furniture in the room began to transform altogether. The tables and chairs previously used for classrooms were taken to some other place, and people began to bring in cushions, beanbags, yoga mats. There was a brief kerfuffle as the administration attempted to push back, claiming the need for classroom space, but they quickly caved to our growing momentum, to the students' experience of praxis. The classroom had been transformed into a ministry. Someone hung a huge banner declaring the space the hub, and then more giant posters arrived on the walls with names of all the black people who had been killed that year and in prior years in police custody, as well as other quotes that were inspirational from the Bible, from theologians who we were learning from. We recognize the names of all the people on that poster now as part of the impetus for the Black Lives Matter movement. But this moment, December of 2014, this was the infancy of the movement, at least in New York City. As the police and the politicians waited for our collective energy to wane, we burrowed into this growing movement even more deeply. People began bringing in home-cooked food to serve to anyone in the hub each day, mostly for lunch, and we began to hold teach-ins in the space. Without clear leaders or organizers, the space was a hub of bold action with very little debate or discussion. And let me assure you, these were people who were used to talking. In this leaderless space, the vibes were good. There was often incense or candles burning somewhere. There were yoga mats and beautiful posters and also other art that people would bring in from their rooms. In this, we felt like these starlings must feel, swooping in, taking up all the space with our forward movement, casting our vision like a net of so many birds in the sky, taking shape together. Which is not to say there was always peace between neighbors in the hub. I remember one particular teach-in when a white man in his 20s excoriated many of us for going home at the end of the day, for not risking our safety and our livelihoods and getting arrested, and for having different methods and approaches within the same social action movement. This often happens in social action. Many of the people who had organized the hub were African American and Latinx women in their middle age with children and with families. All of us heard him, and then a few of these women invited him to stay in the hub and be quiet for a time. A number of people shared how his words made them feel as though their contribution was less than his, that their ideas were less worthy than his own. About 7 or more people spoke, and he listened, just sat and listened to the impact of his words. And after a long while, he quietly replied, "Thank you. I think I understand." He was different after that, a bit quieter and thoughtful, and he developed this attractive sheen of humility that guided his words and actions. He was no longer a leader, but he became quite beloved by the entire community following that moment in the hub. The capstone of the hub experience was when Dr. James Cone wanted to hold his class in the collective space with people standing or sitting on yoga mats or cushions or wherever they were, because he felt the moment was historic and that the space was where justice was happening in real time. This is the first time I've ever written about the hub or reflected on it, and I think I agree. I see what he meant, that it was a historic moment. The strategy that is emergent, according to Adrienne Marie Brown, looks like the hub at Union Theological Seminary in the winter of 2014. Could we at UUCA become a murmuration of starlings? Could we make a serious impact on healing the wound of poverty in Atlanta? What happens when we let go and join a flock? What fears keep us from doing so? That our uniqueness will no longer be celebrated? That people may do things their way and not my way? We all wrestle with our longing to be more virtuous. But what does that even look like? What does virtue even look like as the needle on our moral compass is rendered haywire and off the charts by the growing global atrocities, springing up like the great mycelium fungus, insidious and cunning? Yes, there are negative examples of biomimicry too. In her recent piece in Time magazine, Atlanta writer Tayari Jones questions the fallacy of the moral middle in times such as these. The middle is a point equidistant from 2 poles, she writes. That's it. There is nothing inherently virtuous about being neither here nor there. Buried in this is a false equivalency of ideas, what you might call the good people on both sides phenomenon. When we revisit our own shameful past, ask yourself, where was the middle? Rather than chattel slavery, perhaps we could agree on a nice program of indentured servitude? Instead of subjecting Japanese Americans, citizens to indefinite detention in World War II, what if we had agreed to give them actual sentences and perhaps provided a receipt for them to reclaim their belongings after they were released? What is halfway between moral and immoral? Tayari Jones writes, the search for the middle is rooted in conflict avoidance and denial. For many Americans, it is painful to understand that there are citizens of our community who are deeply racist, sexist, homophobic, and xenophobic. Certainly, they reason this current moment is somehow a complicated misunderstanding. Perhaps there is some way to look at this, a view from the middle, that would allow us to communicate and realize that our national identity is the tie that will bind us comfortably and with a bow. The headlines that lament a divided America suggest that the fact that we can't all get along is more significant than the issues over which we are sparring. This is what Tayari Jones has to tell us. See, waging peace does not look like the American melting pot, all of us getting along in a blur of allegiance to getting along. It's important not to conflate neighborliness and peacemaking, which I hold as religious virtues, with political activism, which is not religious. In Rebecca Traister's fabulous recent interview with Stacey Abrams in the most recent issue of New York Magazine, Abrams' perspective aligns with Tayari Jones' ideas about working with people with whom you share a basic moral intuition, and that shared basic moral intuition is important. As part of her decades-long project to assume high office, Stacey Abrams carefully studied the history of the Democratic Party in the South and became convinced that Democrats have spent too much time focusing on the middle of the road or even right-leaning voters at the expense of others. When you go after someone who has a deep ideological belief set that is contradictory to your own, Stacey Abrams says, it is conversion. Conversion is hard. In fact, it's miraculous. We have entire religions built around this idea of conversion. Politics is not a religion. Politics is about persuasion. Abrams believes that persuasion works best on those predisposed to share democratic values, which still does not mean it's easy. We can find a way to love our neighbor while honoring the personal and real casualties of our political and cultural wars taking place in real time. One way to wage peace between neighbors is to be brutally hard on your own opinions. Fully examine them, test them. One of the most formative experiences of my life was a friendship I shared with another student in my small clinical pastoral education class in the summer of 2013. This was after my participation in Occupy Wall Street, but before the Hub and Black Lives Matter. This was a very intense time in New York City, as you might imagine. But this young man was a white man in his early 30s, recently converted to Eastern Orthodox, was whip smart and charismatic, and was one of the most simultaneously fascinating and frustrating people I have ever known. It seemed like we hardly spent any time in pseudo-community, and we dove right into opening up our truest and deepest selves to one another. About halfway through the 8-week course, we were arguing about abortion. I'm not sure who introduced the topic. Probably it was our professor, a consummate instigator. Our small group had bonded quickly and fairly well, and just as suddenly we drew our battle lines and jumped on either side. Each afternoon, after class, this man studying to be an Eastern Orthodox priest and we met to discuss it further for hours. The more we argued, the more we argued. I do remember a moment of profound humility when I knew I was reaching for the upper hand more than I was reaching towards him. Well, I harumphed at him, for me, it's just a basic human rights issue. Don't you see? He replied. It is also a basic human rights issue for me, too. I fell deep into the well of my own opinion. And don't worry, I came out of the rabbit hole with my perspective more courageously defined, don't you worry about that, and more widely applied. But just as importantly, I came to respect his moral intuition. Though I found his facts misguided and his experience lacking, I felt like I could love his conservative heart because I found it moral. I had never wondered what it would be like to befriend an Eastern Orthodox priest under 35, but I found out. My heart rages that we are holding small children in captivity along our borders and in overcrowded detention centers under inhumane conditions. Most days, I can never answer fine when someone asks me how I am because I know this is going on. I know our legislatures are voting to arm teachers rather than regulate firearms. Heck, as a white cisgender person, I am not nearly the most terrorized, and I am not fine. But wherever we can make peace, we must try. Our Unitarian Universalist faith calls us to practice justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. It's our second principle. This does not mean we sacrifice compassion for those humans who are not directly in our midst. However, making peace with neighbors is holy work. It is difficult work. My commitment to my Eastern Orthodox friend is the same commitment we make to each other here in our congregation, to stay in relationship. I believe he and I could have spent years in a debate, but our shared moral intuition kept us connected to a primary commitment that we hold as Unitarian Universalists. We belong to each other. And we must do the hard work of examining our own opinions and finding a moral thread linking us to our neighbor. Our culture is at war, make no mistake, even as many of our nations are at war. To wage peace is to seek a moral intuition in someone's position and to surrender to the collective wisdom like a murmuration of starlings, staying open and curious to the adaptations we will need to survive these times, where people on the edges are brought into the middle, and we're constantly making that movement of bringing people who are in the margins constantly in the middle, centralizing their lives, their voices, their experience, staying open to that power and following it. Many of the writers I love, many of the writers who I have read leading up to this sermon are disciples of the great science fiction Black woman writer Octavia Butler, who writes, "All that you touch, you change. All that you change, changes you. The only lasting truth is change. God is change." Remembering the powerful flight of the starlings in that dark Iowa sky, I long to join with you in murmuration, moving as one collective vision, emerging from individualism, becoming powerfully the change we wish to see in this world. May it be so. Amen.
Amen. Our last hymn this morning is number 1028, The Fire of Commitment. Please rise in body or in spirit. It's a big sing. You got to dig deep. From the light of days remembered burns a beacon bright and clear, guiding hands and hearts and spirits into faith set free from fear. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the stories of our living brings a song both brave and free, calling pilgrims still to witness to the life of liberty. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the dreams of youthful vision comes a new prophetic voice, which demands a deeper justice, built high our courageous choice. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment then our future can begin.
In standing, if you're able, and join hands for the benediction. Now, without speaking, invite your neighbor to move. You've compelled them a little bit, just a little bit. And also you have been compelled just a little bit. You were curious, and then you were open. Out of control, in control, sharing the control. Remember this feeling. This is what the starlings might feel like. The flow. Take this flow out into your day and into your week. Find a way to connect with this flow, following the thread of our moral intuition towards one another. Find a way, some way, to make peace between a neighbor this week. Go in peace. Blessed be. Amen.